Yo, everyone, welcome back. Brand new tech issues in the building. It is me, Michael Bahane, and I am joined with
The Desi of Hustle Crew. What's up, everybody?
whoop whoop. See, was that an exciting whoop whoop? You told me off last
Now we're
episode, so
talking. Now we're talking.
now we're
Now you're
talking.
now you're whooping with gas. Yeah.
Here we go. So, are you going to this Oasis concert, Abidisi, or are you trying to get tickets for this? Are you about that Oasis life?
My friends are talking about this on the weekend because they didn't get tickets, but were regretting it. I'm okay. Like, I think I'll be fine if I don't get to see them. I also feel like they're just going to be the new Rolling Stones. Like, they're just going to be touring
Right.
until they die, you know? So I
Yeah.
just feel like I don't have any FOMO. But how about you? Are you going to fork out some of your retirement fund to get a ticket?
No, definitely not. I mean, to be honest, the pricing went crazy, and that's pretty much why I wanted to
Right?
talk about the story. So, essentially, on Ticketmaster, there's a way where you can set dynamic pricing as an artist, where you say, like Uber with
Surge
search pricing, if it
pricing.
gets, yeah, exactly, right. So if there's demand and there's a long queue of people, you can ratchet up the price to determine who gets it, basically, right? Which has now led
Wow.
to members of the UK government saying, like, yo, like, we need to investigate Ticketmaster. So this sent me on a giant
Wow.
rabbit hole about
Yeah.
Ticketmaster. So what people don't know about Ticketmaster, that essentially it's a mafia in plain sight. Ticketmaster is owned by Live Nation. So you probably heard of
Yes.
Live Nation. Live
Yeah.
Nation
Yeah.
is a company that's worth about 17 billion. They own and manage, not own, so they manage about 400 musical acts. And now they also, because they own Ticketmaster, they've come up with an arrangement where about 60% of the largest venues in the world either have an exclusive contract with them or they own the venue, basically, right? So
So
because
they're a
of that, if any
monopoly.
kind of venue, essentially, so if any venue is like, we want to work with Abadesi's new startup, which does ticket handling for musical artists, Live Nation or Ticketmaster will punish that venue and basically be like, well, we're not going to give you any of our other acts, basically. So it's led to
Wow.
basically like an investigation by the DOJ to like assess whether they are a monopoly. But it really is a mafia, and this is why consumers are like, wow, why are there so many fees? Why are the ticket prices so extortionate? Like, what's
Yeah.
going on here, basically, right?
Why
Because
is the
essentially
user
it's monopoly,
experience so bad? I'm sorry. Y'all have a few
100%.
$1 billion. You can't hire a better product designer? Come on.
Yeah, so I just found that super fascinating. I was like, listen, I wonder if there's other examples I can find of like just like basically monopoly slash mafias in place. Like, because it kind of, I think it was a Taylor Swift concert in 2022, which people really start to feel like, okay, what's going on here? And I think when you start dealing with Oasis and these sort of like middle-aged, like white rock bands, this is when you start to get like the middle-aged politicians involved, because they're like, oh, this is affecting my music now. This ain't no hip-hop group that I don't care about. This is my type of, this is my genre, right? So yeah, hopefully they do break them up, or they do like force them to like, not have these exclusive deals with venues where like, in what world does it make sense that a venue has to have an exclusive deal with a software platform to
It doesn't
sell,
make any
what I'm saying,
sense.
tickets? Not at all.
And
And it only makes sense in lieu of, go on.
I was just going to say, like, it stifles innovation. Like, I remember in the Twins, like, Dojo app in London, which was like, find cool things to do. I mean, the founders went on to make Kyra, so they're still doing well. But I feel like there are so many people who've tried to innovate in that eventing, live entertainment, ticketing space. And, like, we still have apps like Dice or like Resident Advisor. Like, there's still people who are out there. But like you say, these are more smaller venues, indie artists, smaller acts.
Yeah.
When it comes to those big stadium gigs, you're just locked into the Live Nation ecosystem, and it's not a good customer experience, is it? Like, honestly, if I have to book through
Yeah.
Ticketmaster, like for example, my members club has like a box at the O2. Like, it is a long and boring and tedious experience. Like, you have to download 2 different apps, transfer 1 ticket to this app, do this, do that. It's like
Wow.
Gen 1 internet, the way their products are
Right.
designed. It hurts. So at least if they were pumping that money into like a good experience, I'd feel less salty about it. But yeah, this is just crazy. And do the artists realize these gains? So with surge pricing, I knew that one of the reasons why drivers were so up in arms about it was because all of that was getting passed on to Uber. Like, this was when surge pricing originally started. Drivers were really upset. I mean, this is the time when they're exploring unionizing, and they're also saying, so you're passing all these higher prices on to the customers, but we're not seeing it. And I'm just curious, are
Interesting.
artists seeing the benefits of that?
So I think the artists have to manually submit and say, like, we want to do dynamic pricing, because essentially search pricing is a way of handling supply and demand, right? You can either say supply is limited based on who gets there first. So let's say, for example, I'm in a queue and I'm ahead of the queue. You could easily just say, okay, that person gets a ticket. But what you might do with search pricing, essentially say, we give it to the person who's willing to pay the most, basically, right? So it's a very different dynamic. And we're used to it within travel, but this whole thing within ticketed experiences, I think it's perverse. And I wouldn't go as far as saying it shouldn't be allowed, but I feel like the whole genre now of just ticketing and concerts it's become like the Hunger Games. It used to just be like, yo, you want to go see a show? It's like 20, 30 pounds, 20, 30, $40. Then it became $100. Now it became, there's a reseller market. Even if you go on Ticketmaster, there's like a reseller market there where you can go in and get tickets for like $700. And I'm like, come off it, man. What's going on? I just want to see a nice little show. Do me a favor. Anyways,
and I think big artists, I mean, I guess maybe the labels like trap them too, but like you do sometimes see big artists playing in smaller venues. Like I saw Sampha in Alexandra Palace. That's like his local sort of venue where he grew up. He could have done Wembley. He could have done O2. He's famous enough for that. But I guess he had the flexibility with his label and the choice with his team to go for a smaller venue. I don't know.
You can't really blame the artist though, because it's like they have witnessed in the last 20 years their entire business model be upended. Like we used to go and buy CDs for $20 for one album.
Yeah.
The price that you're paying for Spotify, $9.99 a month, $10.99 a month. We used to spend double that for 20 tracks, basically. Now you get unlimited tracks, even though you don't technically own them. So these artists were making, if you had a hit record, you might make $20-30 million a record, right? Do you know what I'm saying? That whole business model is now completely gone, and they're relying on their live shows. So this is probably why you're seeing ticketed the pricing going up, as well as the scrupulous platform. Yeah. So shout out to the Mafia Ticketmaster. Shout out to you guys. Hopefully you guys get broken up.
Next live show. I might have to test this out.
So you know what? So kind of last episode, we went semi-viral talking about this whole Beyonce situation with her product. Maybe not necessarily being like well thought through, or maybe we didn't think it necessarily like aligned with her brand, right? And we got cooked a little bit, but it is what it is. We're used to it now, minute like
that's social media for you.
That is social media. Actually, let me ask you. So, how do you deal with like hate comments? Because I can't lie. Like, I think it's gonna be infinitely worse for you. But I definitely say that I somehow adapted. But like, do you adapt? Do you like? How do you find it? Or do you just be like, let me not look at comments, or do I just like? How does it work?
I have like a few different strategies to deal with it, and it's difficult because I am an entrepreneur, so I rely on social media to like promote my business Hustle Crew, and I also do a lot of public speaking and consulting. And coaching, so I have to like be on there for my own personal brand. I'm quite aggressive when it comes to like muting and blocking,
100%.
especially on platforms like TikTok, where there's just out and out hate speech and misogynoir and racism. Like TikTok is toxic. Heard it here first.
Basically.
But yeah. So I think very, very aggressive. I do try to avoid like reading comments, especially on posts that have started to go viral, where I know it's not like my immediate circle, my immediate community of followers and friends, where it's just like hits some kind of algorithm and is now just booming. Like some of the comments on that Beyonce video like are so troubling. Like one person's like, it's not her, Jay-Z's forcing her to do it. I'm like, what, are you like inside circle of the Knowles Carter family that you have access to this? But yeah, I also honestly I have periods where I just like don't go on the apps. I know that sounds bad because there are people on the apps I want to like interact with and I want to see what they're up to. But especially if I've come to like, the end of a campaign, like I've just launched something and now that it's out there, I can take a step back. Like I'm so happy when I don't open Instagram for a week. Like my life is so good. Wow. And I just think the more I'm on there, like the more it feels like that virtual world is as real as the real world. So when I see toxic comments, when I see hate speech, when I see verbal attacks against me, they cut as if it would if I was walking on the streets and someone hurled abuse at me. So sometimes I really just have to remove myself from that virtual world and spend more time in the outside world to like minimize the impact of that.
No, that's smart. I don't think anyone can hate on that. I think what I've tried to do, obviously it's nowhere near as bad, like compared to probably what a woman would get. But like when I started doing like daily TikToks, if you don't know, I do daily TikToks. Everybody give me a follow. And in the beginning, I was like engaging with the trolls because I was like,
wow,
I'm clean-hearted in it. So if I see a comment, I'm gonna assume that it's a legitimate comment. And then I'm realizing that actually the way TikTok algorithm works, it obviously wants to determine who should see this content. So if a troll sees the content and gets engaged with, it then thinks, okay, let me show this to more trolls because I showed it to this person. So they are who wants to see it and they are getting engagement. So let me show it to similar profiles. And I was getting troll after troll. So yeah, if you're gonna like put content on TikTok or whatever, just mute and block. Don't be shy with it.
How are you keeping up the daily post, by the way, because I know a lot of people listening are promoting stuff. They're promoting their brands, they're promoting their businesses,
Yeah.
but they're just like building up their career profile for that next big jump. And you've been on it. Like this time last year, you weren't really on TikTok like that, or even on
No, not at
Instagram
all.
like that. And then this year, you've kind of doubled down on like content creation, obviously like beyond techish in terms of more thought leadership, business coaching. How do you even find the time and like the commitment to do that on top of managing like
Yeah.
your team of like nearly 10 and all this other stuff? Like, I'm just curious. Also, you're like the main engineer of your company. So you're also like writing code all
Yeah.
the time and building products. So I'm just curious if you have any advice to share, because I feel that for many people, that's quite a big jump to go from like not doing hardly any content to now posting daily, building up thousands of followers.
Yeah, I'm not gonna front like I got like a bunch of followers. I probably got like 6K on TikTok, but I started on zero. Like, so I'm proud of what I built. So how I've done it is I try to make sure that it fits within my daily schedule. I don't build my life around TikTok. I let TikTok fit in where I can let it fit in. So if I'm walking down the street, you'll see me just get the phone out. If I've got a brain fart or an idea about what I think is a great, cool idea or something interesting or an interesting thought, I just get out and record and then I just publish it and I go about my
Yeah.
day basically. Then
Got
if
it.
it does well on TikTok, then I'll repurpose it for Instagram basically. So
Nice.
essentially Instagram becomes my greatest hits for TikTok. So I absolutely don't have time to be sitting there getting a camera, like a proper professional camera out, getting a mic and being like, yo, so today's TikTok, no, I don't have time for that. I'll be honest with you. I got time for, does this fit in my schedule? Have I got some random time, random 2 minutes? Let's do it then basically. Because don't get twisted, I basically converted the time where maybe I'm consuming TikTok into time where I'm just producing. Because let's look at like a lot of us have like 20, 30
Scrolling
minutes a day where you're just scrolling. It's a waste of time, innit? So I'm like, let me actually create, based on this. And then also sometimes I'll read a book and I'm like, yo, I want to talk about this book, but no one else has read the book. So I just go and put my phone out and just start chatting about a book. And some people resonate with it. They're like, yo, great recommendations. And that's built up my following quite a bit, actually, just like a series of book recommendations I've been doing.
Nice.
So it's just about making it fit within your current lifestyle, not forcing it to be like, oh, this is TikTok time and let me, you know what I mean? So that's how I do it.
Shower TikToks?
Nothing.
Toilet TikToks? How far should
One
people
day,
go?
innit?
How far should people go?
One day, Well, you know what? The one thing I would say about TikTok is that like you see accounts that like start at the same time as you, and then like they might grow super fast. And one thing, this is gonna sound so petty in it, yeah, but listen, there really is an advantage to being good looking, because I've seen accounts where like there's some dude with a square jaw, like some mixed race, like looking handsome dude, and he's got like 100K followers in like 3 weeks, and I'm like, oh my days. I'm like, you know what, man? Listen,
Conventional
some people
beauty
are just testing it.
standards. Beauty's in the eye of the
100%,
beholder.
man. A lot of people don't realize that Serena Williams actually is a major, big time angel investor. She's done about 60 investments since like 2014. And I think apparently about 14 of them have turned into unicorns, which is an unbelievable hit rate. And then she's done so well that in 2022, which I didn't realize, she actually raised like a traditional VC fund. So if you don't know, there's obviously a difference. An angel investment, she's investing her own money. VC firm, she's managed to go to institutions. She's raised about 110 million basically so far. And she's killed it. And apparently up to 80% of the founders in her portfolio are underrepresented, either Black, Latino, or a woman. Her investment team is all women as well. And she's dope. Shout out to Serena. I think like there's a certain caliber of athlete that might be terrified of retiring. They don't know what to do next. It's all they've known their whole life. So I really like commend what she's done here. Like, and also like it doesn't have to be that you make your own product as well. Like you can just invest. You get what I'm saying? Like you can just like plow your resources, your know-how, your brand, and help scale up other founders who are doing amazing things. Like, so I think that is kind of a different case study. Like if we're going to do like an MBA on like celebrities who are tapped into culture and what they're doing with their money. Do you have any thoughts on what Serena's done? Have you tapped into anything she's done so far?
I thought that Serena Williams and Alexis Ohanian are like a really cool power couple in terms of like the skills that are at the table there, because you have someone who is really like a tech industry OG, founder of Reddit, like one of the most successful social media platforms. Whether or not you spend time on Reddit, you cannot deny how it has like shaped society and how it shapes like the 100%. Way we communicate and educate ourselves and discover things in real time. Having someone with his credentials, his expertise, sitting at the table with literally one of the most successful athletes in the world, like elite. There's some real like parallels between what it takes to be a good athlete and what it takes to be a good entrepreneur in terms of like showing up, discipline, self-awareness, overcoming your own, issues, learning how to be a team player, taking big risks, failing, picking yourself back up again. So I love the idea of the two of them coming together for a life partnership, but then also hopefully influencing each other in their own worlds and in their own, careers and stuff. So I was really happy to hear about Serena going into the world of venture, not just because Black women are only getting less than 1% of all the venture capital funding that's available,
Yeah.
but also because I truly believe that she can give you more than just money. Do you know what I mean? Like if I was an entrepreneur
100%.
and I was about to go on that long journey of like building a successful business, knowing that I can access someone like Serena, who's had that discipline, who's had that determination, who has picked herself up so many times after injuries and losses and like whatnot, I just feel is like an absolutely winning combination. And a lot of investors have not ever operated any landscape. They've never been in the arena. They've never like been an employee. They're just like the son of a rich guy who's like, I'm going to be a VC now, daddy. So the fact that you've got someone who has the money and also has a track record, it's just exciting for the ecosystem. So yeah, I think it's really cool. And the fact that she has such a good hit rate of exits shows that she's not only making really good decisions, but also she has a good team around her, right? So I think that's really exciting to see what keeps happening.
I mean, if you want to have a winner on your side, there's no greater winner than Serena Williams. Like the mindset that you need to kind of keep coming back for 20 years to win when people maybe are doubting you, when you're injured, when you're tired. Like that's there's no one with a better kind of mindset than her. So yeah, shout out to her. I would love to have her on my team. But to be honest, like I remember one time they were hiring and I think we mentioned it on the show and we were like, listen, go work there if you want, but don't get it twisted. You're probably going to get worked because you're with a champion. Do you get what I'm saying? I don't know if Serena Williams knows the meaning of like work-life balance. Serena Williams, all she knows is winning in it and doing whatever it takes in it. So I'm guessing that it's going to be a really strong environment to get things done, basically, right? Yeah, so shout out to her. So the other thing that's kind of trended now all over social media and tech Twitter is Paul Graham's recent article called Founder Mode. So,
yes, we were talking about this.
Yeah, I
love me a Paul Graham essay. Love me a Paul Graham essay. Love me a Paul Graham article.
So actually, do you have any like musings about Paul Graham's essays and maybe what they've done for your career? Or do you remember any of them where you're like, okay, that stuck with me?
Oh man, honestly, the one that will like always stick with me, and I feel like the way some people like can just recite verses of the Bible, like John 3:16 and like all this kind of stuff. For me, do things that don't scale is like the essay that I come back to time and time again, because it's such an important reminder of how like the things that can really make an impact, for example, like in a sales journey or in a customer experience, are those like extremely like personal, intimate, like memories, connections, the thing you listened to, the things that you acted on that can't be recreated in a, mass mail merge or whatever it is. And I always say that to my team, like as good as it is to have scalable processes, and of course they are important, when you are stuck, when you've hit a rut, when you've hit a wall, the thing that's going to help you overcome that is actually the thing that doesn't scale. It's kind of like going back to basics and going, okay, what do I know about this customer? What can I do to make them feel special? What do I, how can I add delight or spark into this user experience, into this journey? And those things aren't necessarily scalable, but they're magical. And that's what makes products really special. So yeah, I think things that don't scale is a big one for me. How about you?
The best example of that actually was the Airbnb story, where like I think when they initially launched, they were like, we're going to be a marketplace like eBay where we're very hands off, because that was the conventional wisdom about doing marketplaces at the time. But then when they heard that advice from Paul Graham, they went ahead and got a photographer to go to all the top locations, the top houses, and take really beautiful pictures of the houses, basically, right? And that helped them grow because they saw turbocharging bookings based on that. But if you were coming from it from the perspective of like, we've got to scale it and be clever and be viral, you would be like, we don't have the bandwidth, all the resources to do that. We want to be hands off, just like eBay, right? So yeah, that's another great example. Yeah. So then,
well, I was also just gonna say one more thing, because I feel like this is like maybe a less quoted one. Like, do things that don't scale. For a deeper cut as well, be ramen profitable. Because there are too many founders out there. Too many founders out there being like, oh, we're pre-revenue. It's like, y'all can't be pre-revenue forever, okay? Like, if you really want to impress investors and if you really want to like show that you've got something sustainable, be ramen profitable. It doesn't have to be a big margin, but you should be making something and you can justify the costs. So yeah, that's the second one if you want to dip into his archives.
Facts. So this new one that he did called Founder Mode has taken Tech Twitter by storm, of Tech X. essentially the thesis of the argument is that a lot of the traditional advice given to entrepreneurs when their startup starts to scale, which is basically go hire good managers or go hire good people and let them get on with it, basically, right? And that is the kind of way where like you can scale up in a way where you basically delegate. And he basically goes against that and says that actually the best founders, the Steve Jobs, even Brian Chesky at Airbnb said this, where he said, actually, I had to go back in there and actually just be like, I guess you could say a bit of a micromanager, a person who would read that and be like, this is micromanaging, but in a sense where actually maybe you just can't let people get on with things. You've actually got to
Dictate
get
a little
involved in
bit.
a way where dictate and also monitor heavily, basically, and be like, actually, no, I don't like that. Go back and do that again. Whereas there's this idea within normal corporations, hire smart people, leave them alone.
Yeah,
I got a quote from it actually to sum it up.
please.
Hire good people and give them room to do their jobs. It sounds great when it's described that way, doesn't it? Except in practice, judging from the report of founder after founder, what this often turns out is to mean hire professional fakers and let them drive the company into the ground. So obviously he's saying it in a much more raw way that I just said it, innit? Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you think
yeah,
there's any
yeah.
truth to it? What do you think we're
Cool,
dealing with an
child.
industry of micromanagers?
How much time we got? I'm gonna have to reopen some old wounds over here to dive into this
Go for it.
conversation. The thing is, like, I have been in that situation before where people who have such a strong track record, have such strong credentials, and just kill it in the interview process and the assignments,
Sorry.
come into the company and do not deliver the results. And
Preach.
it does feel like you've been, whatever, a spell has been cast on you. You're just like, I'm so confused. Like, all the evidence was there and now it's like disappeared. You know, what happened? And a lot of these people are incredible manipulators, whether it's like a psychological trait, a personality trait, whether it's like some skill they've gained, neurolinguistic programming, Darren Brown stuff, I don't know. But when you challenge these people, they will often try and like dance circles around you or avoid the argument. And when you're a
They'll give you a good
CEO,
story.
sorry,
They'll give you a good story, basically.
they'll give you a good story. And what I realized is when you're a CEO, you are often running on very low bandwidth. You're putting out fires left, right, and center. You're doing the job that in any other company, 10 people would be doing. You're jumping from sales mode to product mode to marketing mode all the time. So when you finally get down to like one-to-one mode where you're like, hey, cool, let's look at the dashboard or let's talk through the problems. And someone has basically been spending the whole day preparing their excuses for you. You can't really compete with that, even if you are, you know, their intellectual equal or superior. So I think there's a lot of truth in what Paul Graham said. And the second thing that I'll say is something that like my old coach, Carl Martin, told me. He runs PeerPod. He was saying that you can think of leadership across like a spectrum. And on the one hand, there's like no guidance whatsoever, like a real like free for all, just do whatever you want. And then on the other side is like absolutely like anal, super on you, micromanaging. And it's like neither of those extremes is good, because in the absence of any direction, people just like one feel like uninspired and demotivated because there's no leadership and do whatever they want. And then on the other side, all imagination and creativity is taken away because you're like over managing them. And like the perfect thing lies in between. I mean, Steve Jobs was obsessive about stuff, right? Like he was famously really difficult to work with, but the guy made, you know, great products and he ran a successful company. What do you think?
Yeah, it reminds me of a conversation that me and you had last year where actually, in terms of like my sales, I had taken a step back where basically I had hired salespeople and I would basically give them the leads and like I'd be like, okay, and I would basically get like weekly reporting and see how they're doing. And to me, that was like, that's how you're meant to do it, right? You've got employees, you delegate to them. And you were like, bro, like you're the CEO, you're meant to be the main salesperson, like at all times, even though doesn't necessarily come naturally to me, but obviously no one knows the product better than me. I built the damn thing. So basically this year I was like, you know what, I'm going to take a much more hands-on approach. And actually now I'm actually probably the top salesperson in the company, even though it's not necessarily my full-time gig. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where if I had taken it, you know, in managerial mode, we might have had a lot less sales, because I'm now like, you know what, actually I'm best qualified to speak on this, to speak to this person, or I'm going to come and talk, close the deal, whatever. And some people might be like, right, like you're kind of, you know, you're micromanaging or you're crowding them out, whatever. But it's like, no, I'm doing what's going to work. And right now I'm working. And if you want to take my role and get my sales, come get them. Like, you know what I'm saying? show some energy. And that sounds like so weird to somebody who works in a normal company. But when you're
Yeah.
working in a small team, you know what I mean? And it's your neck on the line, it's your company on the line, you're gonna do it. And that's the way to do it. And if you try to follow this corporate advice, it don't work. Honestly, it doesn't.
Same thing is happening with me in marketing, because like I had to downsize my team last year, like many of us, for like the market change in diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And I have still not found anyone who can create like the marketing content I need to generate leads and generate engagement as well as I can. It's not like I want to
Yeah.
write our newsletter. I mean, it's fun, don't get me wrong, but I would rather be like out and about networking or like talking to clients or whatever. But when you find someone who sees the task as like a plug and play, or just like something to get off their to-do list, versus like your mindset, which is I've got skin in the game, I'm gonna like go the extra mile to like really think of how this can engage our audience or get people thinking differently about our mission, about our work. Yeah, I really, really struggled to find someone who can, do things like social media content or whatever as well as me. I mean, I hope to one day. I used to have an amazing person helping me on my team, but in the meantime, I'll do it, and that's okay.
Yeah. It reminds me of, I remember the founder of Innocent Smoothie. So if you don't know in the States, Innocent Smoothie is like a smoothie drink, natural fruits, whatever. It's actually really bad for you in terms of like, it's really super high sugar. But at the time, they were pitched as like, this is a healthy drink.
Yes,
And they were
true.
competing against like Pepsi and Coca-Cola. So they were competing against these large organizations. And they went to the founders. They're like, are you guys not scared that like you're going to get destroyed by Coca-Cola? And they were like, well, actually, no, because the person that we're competing against, to them, is just a job. They're just like the head of smoothies, Pepsi or Coca-Cola. They go home, they think, all right, whatever, man, forget it. I've got my kids, I've got my family. Whereas we're the founders and we're running this, and this is our life, basically.
Yeah.
Like they will not have the maniacal attention to detail that we will have, basically, right? And in the end, Coca-Cola acquired them because they couldn't outcompete them. And even though people really hated the acquisition because they're meant to be like the healthy, humane version of like, drinks, but it's just an interesting tidbit about like when you are the founder, it's different, bro. It's different. You just have a different care. And it's not a fault of an employee. That's just a different incentive structure. They just have a different mindset. Why would they not? Like, I completely get it. But so when you try to now step back and say, I'm going to be reliant on people that have a different incentive structure than me, the results are not as good. I'm going to keep that real.
So true.
So yeah, my thoughts.
One thing I'll say on that, one last thing. I used to work in retail. So during university, I went to university in London. London is a notoriously expensive city. So to supplement my student life, I worked in retail, and I worked for a brand called Reese, which became quite popular because Kate Middleton of the royal family, Princess Kate, would wear their clothes a lot. And I was always like, blown away by the fact that the owner of the company, the CEO of the company, would visit every central London branch on Saturday. That's what he spent his Saturday doing.
Wow.
And when he walked through the door, everyone was like, at your stations, you know what I mean? Like action stations, go, go, go. And the first thing he would do was like inspect all the visual merchandising, make sure everyone was doing what they're doing. Then he would go to the till with the general manager and be like, show me the numbers today, because Saturday is our big day. And I just remember clocking that in my mind, where I was like, look at this big company, and the boss is still walking around saying, show me the numbers. And I was like, I need to remember that, like, whenever I'm doing my own thing, I'm gonna stick close to the numbers. I'm gonna make people realize like I'm not sleeping on the job, and neither should you. You know what I mean?
You know what? So I think that dynamic is the reason why there's always an opportunity to start a new business in whatever industry, because the founder tends to eventually leave and retire and goes to the beach. So that energy dissipates. So if that guy wasn't coming into the shop, I'm assuming it's a guy. If he never came into the shop, the standards would be a lot lower. You know that for a fact. People just wouldn't be as on point as they would be.
Coasting.
So then eventually standards might decline, whatever, right? People would coast. Then eventually you now as an upstart who's saying, we're going to raise money. We're going to start a new clothing brand. We're going to compete with Reese. You got a chance because the founder's at the beach. No one there really, really cares. Let's keep it real. It's a job. But you as the founder with your maniacal drive, which you should have, that gives you a window. That gives you a chance. So yeah, I guess it's the everlasting cycle of capitalism, I think, that gives people a chance. But we'll leave it there, everyone. Great episode. We'll catch you next week. Lots of love at Tickish Pod on Instagram and Twitter. Find us on YouTube as well if you're not listening. Yeah, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.